guys, welcome back to my channel. Thought today I would pop on here and continue our conversation on my toddler severe speech delay, and I thought I would dedicate this video to virtual speech therapy sessions, what those look like and how we've gotten along with them, how my toddler has gotten along with them, because that seems to be a huge question from you guys when we are having this conversation around speech therapy in this current world. If you are brand new here, hi, my name is Erica. I have a 2.5-year-old toddler and a 3-month-old newborn. And in my previous video, I will link it down below, I talked about how we identified my toddler's speech delay and then how we went about getting him signed up for speech therapy through early intervention. So let's talk now about online virtual speech therapy and what that looks like, because that's all we know currently, to be honest. When Hugo became eligible for speech therapy, that was back in April of 2020. And as most of us know, 2020 took a turn at the beginning of the year and most things became virtual, and that included his early intervention services. Hugo's been having 1 to 2 virtual speech therapy sessions a week since we started early intervention, so almost a year now. And the biggest question that comes up is, how does he do? How does he do during the virtual sessions? How do you keep a toddler's attention during a virtual session? And I will say this much, at least for our sessions, and obviously I'm only speaking from our perspective. Also, side note, it's a blizzard outside and they are plowing and shoveling like crazy. So if you hear that, if you hear beeping of trucks and stuff, that's what's going on out there. Sessions in the beginning, up until very recently, up until about a month ago, the sessions have honestly been more directed at my husband and I than they have been at Hugo. And I hope that that provides a little bit of relief for you if you are looking into services for your child and nervous about how they're going to do. Like, how is my toddler going to sit in front of a computer screen for an hour? How are they going to interact with an adult that they don't know for an hour? All of that can feel very overwhelming, and I'm here to tell you, at least from our experience, that wasn't what was required of him, which was a huge relief. That might change now as he graduates into a more structured school program, but for the past year in the early intervention program, that's not the plan that we had. So at the beginning of the pandemic, my husband lost his job, and for the bulk of 2020, Jeff was home. So he was able to participate in Hugo's speech therapy sessions, which, you know, I didn't want him to lose his job, obviously, but that was definitely a bright side to our situation, that Jeff could participate and that it could be a really hands-on hour for both him and I with Hugo. So the sessions really consisted of our therapists. Like, we would bring up the virtual session on my phone and the therapist would be coaching Jeff and I with activities and prompts and things to do with Hugo. So for the first few months, it was a lot of just introducing letters and sounds to him. So starting with B. Apparently, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but apparently B and P are sort of the 2 first letters that children are able to say easily. So that's the ones that we started with Hugo. Those were also letters that he was pretty comfortable with. So we wanted to reinforce those sounds and those motor movements in his face. And so we started doing, and they started teaching us a lot of like tactile cueing. So for B and P, they're both the same because the sound comes forward in your mouth. I think I'm not the best with this. I believe that P and P, the tactile cue, is 1 finger in front of the lips because that's how the lips are moving when you're making those sounds. So that is something that the therapists virtually would be teaching Jeff and I, and we would, sorry, my camera battery died. So that's what we would be doing and encouraging Hugo to do. So we would do, they would tell us to do B and P, then we started doing N, we did M, W, we did H. The bulk of the session was encouraging Hugo and having Hugo see us do those tactile cues. And it was really up to Jeff and I to enforce those tactile cues and continue to repeat those sounds during the week, because if you think about it, it's only 1 to 2 sessions, 1 to 2 hours a week of having the speech therapist there virtually. It really then was up to us to continue to do those cues and to make those sounds. Now, again, hopefully this is encouraging to you, but it wasn't as if we were doing the cues to have Hugo do them back to us. So it wasn't as if we were saying ball or bunny that he needed to mirror that back to us. It was really just to show him sound placement and where that sound was coming from. If he felt so inclined to also do the sounds, great, but that wasn't necessary or expected of him. To be honest, he still doesn't do them now. Like, we will do the cues when we're talking to him, but he hasn't once mirrored those cues back to us. Something that we also started introducing a bit later, a bit further into our speech therapy sessions, were signs. So with children who have a speech delay, often it'll be encouraged for you to use some sign language, because with some children, doing sign language and communicating in that way is easier for them. And with Hugo, it's been a little touch and go, to be honest. We started introducing, the first sign that we introduced to him was more. I don't know why that was the first one. That was just randomly the first bit of sign language that we introduced to him. And initially he wasn't picking it up, but this is a real testament to just continuing to do something even if you're not seeing results right away, because randomly one day he started saying and doing the sign for more. So that was really cool. Since then, we have introduced other sign language signs that will hopefully help him communicate. Beyond more though, he sort of created his own signs for different things, and he's coupled them with his own approximations. So now he has approximations for up and down, and he'll also point. So he'll try to say up and he'll point up, he'll try to say down and he'll point down. Come, he'll gesture for someone to come with him. To sit down, he'll point. So just little things like that. Again, I think they're building blocks. A big question from a lot of people will be like, do you think that virtual sessions were worth it, are worth it? Do you think that they were a waste of time in relation to in-person sessions? Now, because we didn't really have very many in-person sessions, it's hard for me to make that comparison, but I think the virtual sessions have really been fantastic, and it sort of set the precedent for Jeff and I to be the main people in continuing and enforcing all of the tools that the speech therapist was giving us. So I imagine that if the speech therapist were seeing him in person every week, it would be easier for us to feel like it was all on her, if that makes sense. But having the sessions be virtual from the get-go has been really nice, because it's been our job solely to teach the things to Hugo. Especially in the beginning, he had no idea. Like, all the virtual Zoom stuff was so new. It was so new to us, but it was so new to Hugo. And originally with the program we were using, we would use the back camera, and you couldn't switch from back camera to front camera during the session. So we would set the camera on the back camera, and we would be showing the therapist Hugo, and Hugo wouldn't be seeing the therapist, if that makes sense. So Hugo wouldn't be in front of my phone looking at the therapist. He would be playing, we would see the therapist, but the therapist would see Hugo. So it really has been such a lesson in taking responsibility for what is happening with your child, and then having to implement the tactics that you're given to hopefully produce a positive result. And in our case, I really think that we have, and I think that virtual sessions have been great. So I mentioned that we had a few in-person sessions. There were a few times during the fall where the weather was nice, COVID cases were low, and we got together in local playgrounds with the therapist. That happened, I think, about 3 times, and that was really lovely, especially because early intervention can be a very comprehensive program, in that once you're in early intervention, if you think your child has any other delays, whether they be physical or whatever, the therapist, at least in our experience, can contact their peers, an OT or a physical therapist, to hop on a call with you and evaluate your child, or come to an in-person session. And that's what we had. We had a physical therapist join us on a call twice. and we never needed an OT because my mom's an OT, and Hugo's fine motor skills were always pretty typical, but we had a physical therapist on the call twice, and that was just so nice. Like if you are having any concerns, and when they got to see Hugo in person, they just had a more comprehensive whole picture view of him, and that's obviously such a pro to in-person sessions. And as things get better and as life hopefully returns to normal and sessions start being in person again, that's something, if your child is in early intervention, you can bring up, and something that if ever during the course of your child's time with early intervention, if you want to get them reevaluated, or you're feeling nervous that maybe they're physically delayed in some aspect, they can have other professionals join you and help you. And I think that that's so fantastic. All in all, I would say that our virtual sessions have been, up to this point, really amazing and have been really beneficial for Hugo. And our therapists were constantly asking us if we felt like we were being given the tools that we needed, and I definitely thought we were. And it also just felt really empowering as his mom to be given those tools and to be working so closely with Hugo during these sessions, because I was the only adult in person there with him. It's going to be very different now as we transition Hugo into an integrated preschool program, and I think that it's probably what the next video will be. I'll talk about that evaluation process, which, spoiler, was such a hot mess. If you are following me on Instagram, you know that I was pretty disappointed with how that was handled. Chat about that. We'll chat about what to expect in the integrated preschool program and about his final few weeks in birth to 3. If you have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.